Hello everyone, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to Amber Charlie Life, where I invite you to come with me on a journey of healing, growth and transformation through art and creations that form themselves through my hands. Like and subscribe to this channel so you see each new upload and can join me on this unfolding live story. I have woken to an overcast, windy day, and there is a moody element to the outside world. There's a temptation to remain under the warmth of the blankets a little longer, but our dog Pablo is insistent it is his time to be fed breakfast. It reminds me of early days with my boys, when they were completely dependent upon me to meet their every need. There were times I wanted to sleep in a tiny bit more, but their giggles, pokes and persistence would muster me out of my slumber happily. I do miss the pitter-patter of tiny feet and their innocent laughter, and I hope to hear it again one day as a grandmother to their children. Those memories will be held forever in my heart and soul, and have always been the foundation for finding the strength to not give up in extremely difficult times. And today, in this moment, it is Pablo, our big furry companion, who wants a bowl of dog biscuits and some bacon on top that gets me out of bed. Animals are such a precious gift to humans, and I value their love and company immensely. Growing up, I was not allowed any pets, except for the occasional accidental stray that my biological father would bring home from time to time. This would cause massive fights in the house, as I begged to keep the pet, and my mother would be enraged at the idea. So I came to realize that within a week or so, the animal would disappear, never to be seen again with any explanation. I would be so sad and confused, but I learned very quickly and very young to smile while I was crying inside, or I would be punished in some way for showing my emotions. Don't get attached, suppress your feelings, otherwise you are bad. It occurred to me yesterday that I am dreading being vulnerable to you all, as it seems, somehow, like a betrayal to the individuals that have caused harm. It is not my intention to assign blame or fault, but I know it is time for me to develop awareness and speak the truth, as I need to learn to be authentic to myself. I also see the immense importance of dismantling ancestral and generational toxic patterns. I have made many mistakes out of ignorance and programmed patterns, and I no longer can use this as an excuse. There are too many resources and solid research available to all of us now. I have made a promise to myself, my children, and the future generations that I will be brave, face the ugly, embrace it with compassion, learn from it, and hopefully be a better person in the remainder of this lifetime. The first time I truly started to undergo a dismantling of my programming was with the significant wake-up call being the ending of a second toxic marriage in 2018. 14 years with the father of my 3 sons, and then 7 years with the next one. I thought something was really wrong with me and just didn't know how to fix it. I had been hearing so many negative things about my character, said by the people who supposedly loved me, and always in private, that I had such low self-esteem and shame. I felt guilt for placing my own children in a similar abusive environment to what I had grown up in, and was so angry and ashamed at myself. Through it all, I had managed to become a registered nurse, worked in complex care environments, studied 3 years of a law degree, which I deferred to become a police officer, and worked in one of the toughest communities in Queensland. Yet I could not get my personal relationships to work. I was 40, with 3 kids of my own, stepchildren who I still adore, and dogs in tow, selling the family home to move into a rental. I knew I had no time to wallow in self-pity, so I sucked it up, all phrases I was taught growing up, to ensure I could get some sort of positive outcome for the well-being of the children. I needed to create some stability for them amid the chaos. I tried to focus on the positives and don't look at the past and just keep moving forward. All more phrases I was repeatedly told by family, and that's exactly what I tried to do. I found the cheapest rental I could get that would take dogs and began creating my dream of owning a tiny cafe that would be something for me. I put lots of love, time, research, and my small bit of savings into the project. Then 6 months later, COVID struck. I worked as hard as I could to keep operating, but with forced closures, changes in business operating rules, and the pressure of still needing a weekly income to provide for the children, I was forced to close the doors for good. In Australia, where we live, the policy choices of this period have had a flow-on effect that will last decades. Personally, I had to take on 2 jobs, one during the day and one at night, to afford rising expenses of being a single mum who rented a home. My boys and I had to move repeatedly as the rent was increased every 6 months and I could no longer afford each home. I was extraordinarily fortunate that one of the beautiful friends I had was in realty, and she would go out of her way to try and find a home for us. I was working harder and longer hours, sometimes 7 days a week, and as the boys became older, they gained employment and began paying rent with me to keep a roof over our heads. On the outside, we always showed a playful, positive, and happy facade, but this was a pressure cooker. Every fibre of my being wanted to scoop my boys up and run away with them, find a place where they could be raised in a safe, supportive, healthy environment that had neighbours and community that looked out for one another. This was not our reality, and I felt very alone, with heavy financial responsibilities. I was very good at putting on a false facade, smiling, always doing, implemented strategies of self-care like beach walks, yoga, gym and meditation. The reality was I was struggling and floundering my way through every single day. Exhausted, broke, fluctuating between feelings of sadness, loneliness, guilt, shame and low self-worth. I had questions that were seeking to be answered, and no one in my immediate family circle at that time seemed to have the emotional capacity or interest to have these discussions. I would receive responses such as, "You made your bed, you lay in it," or "No one gets away scot-free." This made me feel even worse, so I shut down and withdrew. My maturing sons were also beginning to come to me, seeking discussions about quite insightful realizations, and I needed to know the age-appropriate responses to these questions. At this point, I knew I needed help and support, and to begin gaining new knowledge that I had never been taught or shown. I began reading every book I could get my hands on about parenting, trauma, religion, spirituality, health, and healing. I became a seeker. I fell in love with the strength and intelligence of Jordan Peterson, and the softness and safety of Gabor Mate, who first imparted me with the understanding of the effects of childhood trauma. I discovered exceptional thinkers Brene Brown, spiritual and environmentalists Sadhguru and Vandana Shiva. Every spare minute was dedicated to reading or listening to a podcast while I mowed a lawn, washed dishes, walked a dog, or walked a treadmill at the gym. My knowledge and understanding of this world, myself and others, began to expand, and I realized that I had developed significant errors in my beliefs and thinking that were formed a long time ago in my childhood. While I had faith in my capabilities to learn, this was far above my skill level, and I knew I needed to find a really good psychologist. This was no easy task at the time, as due to COVID, the wait times had become staggeringly long. But I persevered, as I always do, and eventually began online therapy sessions with an outstanding trauma specialist. She did not begin with a slow or gentle manner. Maybe it was the time constraints she herself faced due to demand from the COVID event. Maybe it was her method, or maybe she sensed a need for urgency so another person would not be lost to a world of hopelessness and depression. Together, we navigated very deep and hard topics, and I was given resources, tasks, and reading to do for further guidance and support. Her strategy was to set me up with an understanding and appreciation of my strengths, where these first formed, and how I could utilize them in my day-to-day life. I began painting, drawing, coloring, scribbling, sketching and creating again, writing in a journal and expressing through messy poetry. The psychologist explained the immense value of art and expressing through creative outlets, particularly when you were living in environments where your voice was not heard. I reconnected with nature and through meditation, dream states or astral worlds, began to see glimpses of my early true self. I worked harder and out of my comfort zone to form new, beautiful, solid and supportive friendships with several amazing women. This required seeing the faulty thinking I had been taught growing up regarding these types of relationships. These women are my soul family and have shown me the true meaning of love and support, and our bonds continue to grow. I learned how to cry again, which I could never normally do as I was so numbed out to the pain. When I began demonstrating that I had enough resilience and safe, supportive people around me, and this took about 2 years, the psychologist slowly walked me into the trauma and shadow work, and my reality began to completely shift. I will slowly unpack all this journey over future episodes, as there is a lot to it. What is important to know right now is that there is knowledge and wisdom available that can reconnect you with your true self and divine spark. We are born whole and pure into a relationally dependent world that teaches us quickly that there are some aspects of us that are acceptable and others that are not, which originally depends upon the opinions and behaviours of the family we are born into. When our environment doesn't fully accept you and provide safety, we disconnect from ourselves to please others and for survival. This self-preservation instinct is our first act of self-rejection. To heal these wounds or trauma, it is evident that you must bring them from your subconscious to your conscious mind and shine a light on them, as it is known that denying their existence leads to chronic illness, addictions, depression, relational problems, and even early death. The positive is the universe is on our side, and it will continually provide opportunities for you to grow and expand if you're willing to do the work. It is an ongoing process, but the key to being consciously aware and free is through bringing attention and love to those previous parts of yourself that have been rejected. There is a lot of joy in my life and much to be celebrated and thankful for too. I do not get lost in the trauma or pain or ruminate so much that I am stuck. My life still moves forward with goals, plans, loved ones and friends. But it is my wish for the world that everyone could be more aware of their subconscious operating behaviours and find a way back to their true selves. Future generations may have a chance at living a better life with a more authentic and caring world. Until next time, love and light.